What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Big Thing. It's Tuesday, and for those of you who know and subscribe to it because of it, it's UAP Tuesdays, man. This is what we do. We talk about everything kind of going on as we're talking about the latest information, things in the past that maybe we've just come across that we've discovered that we wanted to talk about, and all that and more. So if you're a subscriber to the channel normally and you're like, oh, I'm here for the movie reviews, I'm here for the TV reviews, they're all here. It's from Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but Tuesday is specifically for this stuff. And there are a ton of stories that I think we're going to cover, man. Like, it's the since the hearing itself, David Grusch was on BBC, and he responded to Sean Kirkpatrick's comments. And if you don't know Sean Kirkpatrick, he was basically the one who was in charge of the program that oversaw what David Grusch was doing, and he had called out David Grusch after the hearings, although he did it on LinkedIn, which was bizarre. There's pressure on the Vatican to talk about what happened in the 30s. There's stuff that if there was a crazy report that I'd never seen before from like April, and Reilly didn't hear this either. There was this ex-CIA operative who said that he knows firsthand, and this is not, again, the guy says that there will be that other life forms will present themselves in 2027. Again, how much of this stuff we believe, don't believe, is this show is just for discussion and discussion alone, and it's really more about, as we've said many times over on this show, whatever we believe of what Reilly and I think on this show, the major thing is the awareness to everyone about trying to figure out what's going on in the sky. That's the main thing. So there was apparently some reports that that Russia saw like 50 of these things. It was like firing on them, and there's other reports. So we got tons of stuff to talk about today. And I'm joined with Mark Reilly. So thanks for joining us on The Big Thing. Let's get into it. I'm ready. You're ready. Cool. Let's do it. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the show. It is The Big Thing. It is UAP Tuesdays with this man, Mark Reilly.
Aliens.
And stuff.
Do they have hair?
I don't think so. Not if you believe
this and more on The Big Thing.
Yeah, not if you believe the Varginha case.
What's that?
That's the Brazil one I told you to watch that you haven't watched.
I've seen parts of it now. I've seen a bunch of the Phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay, we started watching that. Got a lot of that done. But isn't there a part of there about the Brazil?
No, he left that one out. James Fox, who directed, left that one out kind of on purpose.
But I've seen pieces. I think you showed me.
I think I showed you pieces of it. But the Varginha one, the Zimbabwe one, which is that's the one I told you about as well.
That's in there.
That's
in
the
Phenomenon.
That's in there.
That one was.
That's a crazy case. So there's lots of things that we're going to talk about on the show today, because there's tons of these. I mean, there was a poll, Reilly, that I saw about how Americans in general, they were asking, I don't know if it was world or Americans here, but they were saying about how many believed now. Like, so here's the one article that I saw. Where is it? Oh, did I miss it? Oh, it's having resurgence. This is from The Hill. It said that the truth is out there. More and more Americans now believe in the UFOs. Roughly 2/5 of Americans now believe in UFOs, polls suggest, signaling a resurgence of pop culture interest in extraterrestrials possibly buzzing around us.
Pop culture.
What did I say?
Interest.
What did I say?
No, I know.
Oh, okay.
No, you said it right.
Yeah. Last week, Congress held an extraordinary and predictably tabloidy hearing on unidentified aerial phenomena, a respectable rebranding.
Tabloidy. That's what I'm pulling out. The wording here.
Right. The Hill.
I'm becoming something.
They're not believers yet.
No.
Unidentified flying objects, a topic long associated with conspiracy theory and late-night talk shows. The hearing capped an epic quest to uncover a secret government UFO program which came to light in 2017. A passion that had faded along with the Cold War that inspired it. Maybe the world is catching up with where the UFO believers have always been, said Jim Harold, a podcaster who hosts one of the internet's longest-running shows on the paranormal. Belief in UFOs seemed to be cresting. The share of Americans who believe UFO sightings offer likely proof of alien life rose from 20% in 1996 to 34% in 2022, according to polls by Newsweek and YouGov. So they put all these things, and a poll released on the eve of the hearing found that 42% of Americans believe in UFOs, while 1 in 10 respondents claims to have seen one. A 2021 report by Pew Research found that half of the nation believes military UFO reports constitute probable or definite evidence of extraterrestrial life. No other subject perhaps inspires such persistent talk about conspiracies and cover-ups. A Gallup poll in 2019 found that 68% of respondents believe that the U.S. government knows more about UFOs than it is telling us.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to, and I think that without mentioning names, I've seen reports and other people that I respect very much in this business and in general talking about these things and being skeptical. And I think it's fair to be skeptical. And I think it's fair to ask those questions and to say, I don't know. And a lot of people say this, if I can't see it, I don't believe it. And that's fine. I think that is that's mostly the questions a lot of people are getting, whether it's Burchett or whoever, when they ask, it's like, where is the concrete proof? And it's always, well, it's behind the door. Right. And so people are like, okay, that's what it's always been.
But there's more there's so many doors, and I feel like one door opened, and that there's more darker, more mysterious, maybe more scary doors. Right. That Grusch and some of the naysayers who say you didn't really prove anything, you didn't bring anything to the table. Well, he can't, I don't think.
That's what I mean. He's not allowed to.
He's not allowed to. He's still following protocol, I feel.
Well, that's what I saw.
This is my opinion. So when you say like, I don't know, that I don't believe in this, I'm gonna, of course, I'm not gonna make anybody believe in anything they don't want to. And if they're gonna keep looking down or whatever, I have my own belief system. I've seen it myself. I have my own UFO experience, UAP experience, and then I see these hearings, and that's it for me. I'm like, let's go. Let's start pulling back some of the doors here. So skepticism, I get, though. This is a fun conversation to have because I do believe, I always say it's smoke. Where there's smoke, there is fire. There's a lot of smoke right now.
Right. There's a lot.
That's what I feel like.
I agree with you, and I think that's a reason why that poll jumped up to 52% or whatever it might be, because there's a lot of it, and it's the first time that it looks like people outside of just the conspiracy theorists or the investigative reporters are going after it. It's like senators, and it's bipartisan senators, which we talked about. Now, the thing is, this is one of the things that I've seen with people that I respect very much, and saying that what I thought would happen, and I think is such a travesty, is that because there are a lot of Republicans that are running this thing, right? That this has been associated with a far-right agenda thing, and I think that is so off the mark, and I think it's such a bad take. I think it's such a bad take.
I don't like that.
It's a bad take, but I think that, because especially when you see, and then I had mentioned because you see AOC and Matt what's his face? Gates together, and people are like, well, they're working on something together, whatever it is economically, they've been working on things together, but that doesn't mean that they always are going to be on the same page and holding hands and jumping through hoops. You also got Chuck Schumer on one side. You got people who are so on the opposite sides on so many different topics that look, is there some kind of agenda? There always is an agenda, right? There's always because especially look at Burchett. Now, Burchett, I believe, is very passionate about this stuff. I think he's very passionate about it, and I believe him when he talks about what he wants to see happen. But if you do go to the agenda side of it, look at this. If he is the guy that leads the charge, that gets information out there, that, let's say, reveals to the public that this is otherworldly stuff or whatever it might be, and eventually information comes out that we're not alone, this guy is going to be remembered forever. So of course there's an agenda.
Yeah, sure. Can it also be an agenda of finally working together on something that's a little bit bigger than just here? Because it really is. It does have monumental possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying. It's like what and skepticism aside, because I'll tell you what, I can't watch the alien shows that are like, we found these markings in a cave. Right. And then we interviewed this guy. He's like, well, I saw something over there, and then they put it over here, and then aliens, and it's like this kind. They make it a show, and it's not really proof. It's more theory. It's more like people sitting around going, well, I think it could be this, and then somebody says, no, I don't think. And it's a show. This is hard stuff here. It's hard proof in my opinion. What we saw, the TikTok video, what is being said, that locked me in. And what they're talking about looks exactly like what I saw. So it is really interesting to see that all the stories are syncing together. Now, to your point, AOC is in there, Matt Gaetz is in there, you know, that guy's. But they're in there working together, and I think that's important because I'm not saying that we're going to have that night. And I love that news article you read that in 97, or not 97, what was it, 2027?
2027. Oh, no, I'm going to tell you about that one. And we'll go over that one.
We'll go over that.
Yeah.
But the unifying event that I believe will sooner or later happen.
Well, so we can transfer over then, too, because, like, James Fox is someone that I've gotten really into this stuff, and I've become a big fan of James Fox, who's the director of the Phenomenon, director of Moment of Contact. And I reached out to him, and he wrote me back. We're going to try to get him in studio. I was going to have him call in because he said he might be out here in September. So if you want to see him on the show, tweet at him and let him know that you want to see him on the show. But one of the things that actually I want to play is talking about not just that particular 2027 thing. We'll get into that. But he was on a podcast, and this is what he said. He was on a show. What was this show called? The show... it doesn't give the list, and I'm sorry, it just doesn't give the list of what show he's on. So if you guys know the show, let me know and I'll link it. But this is what James Fox said, or what he thinks is going to happen in the next 12 months.
Okay, so I think within a year, you're going to be hearing from first-hand witnesses, not second-hand witnesses. There's going to be additional people coming forward confirming David Grusch's claims, and there's going to be more evidence leaking out, like photographic evidence, things. This is coming out. How do I know this? I've also went to Washington for almost 5 weeks, just a couple months ago, and I met with a lot of the people that are working behind the scenes to get this out. They know that it's real, okay? It's just now it's a matter of how do we roll this out? How, and there is a lot of talking behind the scenes. I can assure you this is coming out, and you just wait. When some high-resolution satellite imagery leaks out, that will be happening. First-hand witnesses are going to come forward. That will be happening. They can't put the genie back in the bottle, man. This is coming out.
There you go. And that's what I'm talking about. The stigma. We keep coming back to this theme, as it were. The stigma. We have to slowly break it down. That's what this is.
It is what it is, and I think that but as he says, it's going to take stuff like that more
evidence.
It's going to, because there's going to be people that are like such skeptics who like, why is this always this grainy footage? Why is it always like this stuff you can barely see? And I've gotten on this show since we started doing it. How come they don't have, like, U.S. is the only one who has satellites? And it's like, no, there's tons of countries. And they ask, and we'll play this in a little bit too, because Grusch was on BBC, and they asked him that very question. They're like, why does it seem like it's only an American thing? He's like, that's what they're painting in the tabloids. He said this is very much a world issue. There are tons of countries with other. The question is, though, and this is a question that I got recently, and it was like, why? Because we know that the United States, and this is a question I pose to you, because this is one of the ones that I'm curious about. So we know why the United States and the government in general has been quiet, or at least we think we know why they've been quiet over the last 70, 80 years. They've had their own program. They've had these things they've been doing, whether it's reverse engineering, whatever it might be.
I think it's more that.
Whatever it might be. We know they've been quiet, right? If other governments do have, is there like an agreement between all the governments to be quiet?
I'm sure they're doing the same thing. I'm sure it's happening in all these different countries, and nobody's going to share. I feel
it certainly seemed like that in Brazil.
Why would they want to share their own stuff and their own findings?
Right.
It's picture why you think the Russians are going to tell them about Sputnik.
What they said about
racing to the moon. This is it's the same thing. I think it is the acquiring. It's a space race beyond our own comprehension now. I mean, this is not possibly going to Mars. This is Mars coming to us. Whatever these things are, these UAPs, not aliens, not interdimensional.
But even if
we don't know yet.
Even if it is a thing that can bend time and space, and you knew that from 60 years ago, and you can't figure it out for the life of you, and you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
it's like, and that's the other thing, that the comment that I kept seeing on our show is that, and it's interesting that people said. There's one guy said, "Why do I care about aliens? I just want to go about my life. But there's more important things to cover about." I go, by that logic, why do you care about sports games? Why do you care about music concerts?
Sure, don't worry about it then. Move on with your life then. That's fine.
But it's like he's like this other thing. He's like, why would I want to worry about that? It's like that's true, but it's like but that logic you can apply that to anything.
You can apply it to everything, and I'm choosing to worry about this because it's the most fascinating.
Sometimes
to be honest with you, it's like I'm not necessarily worried because
they're keeping it secret.
Yeah, and whether or not they're ETs or War of the Worlds, I don't know. Are they here in peace? Whatever it may be, I'm not really worried about that yet because I feel like it's okay to say we don't know.
Right.
We don't know what this is right now. Though I've seen something personally, which is coloring my own opinion, and then to see the Tic Tac videos, especially, and then you pair it up with these hearings and what Grusch is saying and what all these people that I believe in are who I believe are very, very credible.
Yeah.
Again, where there's smoke, there's fire. We just have to wait and see and hope that what the director is saying, James Fox is saying, is releasing more evidence, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to is, and he seems pretty convinced, and this guy, him and Leslie Keane are so locked in to this stuff that when they say things like that, that's from like firsthand knowledge. That's from people, like he said, people that he talked to, conversations that he had. I think it's a bold claim, but he's one of the guys that when he says it, it's like maybe it will happen. I don't know. It's just I am skeptical. This is where my skepticism comes in because I believe in if there was a cover up let's say there is a cover up. But they're going to do, and it really seems like, if you believe the reports, that they're doing everything possible. And as Grusch said in the hearing, that people have been hurt, potentially murdered. They're going to keep it quiet as long as they can. And as James Fox says, the genie's out of the bottle, and now that people are really pushing at it. There's only so long that they can. I mean, there was reports, and again, I don't know how true this is, but there was reports that there was around the base that Grusch kind of hinted at where it is, that it was blocked off, that there was potentially people were moving stuff, and I don't know how true any of that stuff is, but I wouldn't be surprised,
Yeah, I think it would be funny. It's just when you said that, he's like, it's a beautiful day over there is incredibly beautiful. It's if you stand over there and just look in that door,
nice it is, right.
It's like I can't imagine. But if there's stuff that is it all goes back to me. I know it sounds corny, and we're in the UFO, what is it, the sci-fi kind of movie angle, but the dark, sinister organization that is hiding this and might follow you home and put one in the back of your brain because they don't want you to say anything.
That stuff comes from somewhere.
Or is it government red tape that they're able to literally take a bunch of evidence that's buried down in the bottom of the Pentagon, and they're just like, no, we're going to put it over here. We're going to put it behind this. You got to get a court order. You got to go do this. You got to go do this. And it's like The Office for trying to get answers. It's just red tape and bored people that are like, I don't know, it's in box 7 over
something
there.
like that. Because, I mean, look at the way that it's covered on the media, right? Like, that's not coincidental, man. It's just not. It's not coincidental that, like...
What, that they're not covering it?
When it covers it, it's like, even this David Grusch thing. David Grusch, hypothetically, that if what James Fox says in the next couple of years, or next year, all this stuff comes out and people start to believe more, and there's actually evidence of this stuff, and we find out concrete, that this is actually happening. It's going to be covered a lot. It's going to be covered in depth, right?
Yeah.
It could be, and it will be, the biggest story that has ever happened in the history of the world. In the history of this world, it will be the biggest story. Even the fact that there's an inkling of that, the fact that it's not covered, and the fact that it's not, that it's still this taboo thing, that is a note from the higher ups of every freaking, and that's why I think that some of these people are saying that it's this right wing thing, because Fox is the only one that covers it. News Nation, I think, is pretty balanced. It's like you get a lot. I think
I'm not familiar other than their UFO coverage.
Right,
Yeah,
and that's what they've been doing right.
Yeah.
And but when I look at it, it's they've like they've got conservatives over there. They have Chris Cuomo over there. They have it's all over the place. But it's to me it's the most balanced so far. Now what happens in a year from now once they become popular? Who knows?
Yeah,
But CNN leans so far left. MSNBC leans so far left that they don't cover it any of it, and they're making it a left-right issue by doing it that way. Because if Fox is covering it at for 10 minutes a show or 5, they're like, well, we can't because then we look like we're leaning on that, and it's so irresponsible.
Well, yeah, and at least the local news is covering it heavily, and that's like they're completely unbiased. They have to go right down the minute. They need the ratings, probably. Exactly. Sure. I'm sure they do. Sure. And you have who's watching the local news other than my old ass? Older people, maybe that are sitting at home, have it on in the background, and they're there, and they can maybe perk up. I'll tell you though, my dad.
Yeah.
Old.
How old?
78, 79 years old.
And he's like us. He feels like we do.
Okay, so when I called him, he was playing golf, so that should tell you everything. And I'm like, Dad, I want to talk to you about these UFO hearings. I'm like, I don't think I believe in that stuff anymore.
When was that?
This was like 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
And I go, Dad, did you watch the hearings? He goes, no, I really wanted to. And I go, okay, I did. Call me back. He calls me back. I give him the rundown. He's interested now. That's like the short of it.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't really believe in this stuff anymore. And then he told me about his picture that he's told me and shown me 100 times. He has a picture of a UFO or a UAP on a government thing that somebody gave him. It was like, I don't know how sensitive or if it's fake or whatever. But he always loves showing that and talking about somebody in the military gave it to me. I'm not supposed to show you this. I'm like, whatever. It's a UFO. Maybe it's not.
Right.
But he is interested in this. And when I told him, I said, look who's sitting in the room. I told him some of the people that are running this. I'm like, it's kind of people working together here, Dad. Democrats and Republicans. My dad is a Republican. Fine. Yeah. He was very interested. As I started to tell him, I'm like, look, there's the Tic Tac video, which he was aware of.
Yep.
I told him my story. I've told him that story many, many years. He keeps laughing about it. But then when I'm telling him, I'm like, these are people that are credible, Dad. What do? You're a lawyer.
Yeah.
What happens when you put somebody on the stand? Credibility comes into factor here. I'm like, they are very credible. I want you to go watch it. He watched it. He goes, okay, I'll say it. They were credible. But I don't know. Why can't they say anything?
Right.
And
that's
I'm like,
that's everybody's response.
Yeah.
That's everybody's response when it comes to that because they want what people want. And I think rightfully so, but I also understand why you can't do this. But at least in the beginning, what they want is, okay, we've heard about the things in the sky, and we've heard about what could be, and if they're beings, if they're not, if it's reversing. We've heard all this stuff before, right? And it's the same old. And my wife has pretty much said it, but not to this extreme, but to where until an alien knocks on my door and asks me to go for lunch, I'm not going to believe it, right? And it's like,
yeah, that's my wife too.
But it's the overall understand. It's the I think philosophy of everybody now to where it's like, look, this thing has been a mystery and kind of like the mystery of the unknown for so long and the unexplained adventures. It's like if they're out there and you're able to get them from a distance, then with the technology that we have today, you should have full, clear-cut images. And what I'm trying to tell people is, I think they do. I think they have tons of it, and I just don't think that and I think this is the point, as James Fox says, we're going to find out soon because there's just too much pressure right now.
Yeah. We live in a crazy, crazy, crazy world of information right now where if you hear something, go online and try to find the proof or the article or the sources or get to the bottom of it. But we have bred a culture in this particular subject, UAPs, UFOs.
Yeah.
It is a blockbuster movie waiting to it's Friday night going to see Independence Day. It's falling in love with E.T. It's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's all the way back Klaatu Narada, whatever the hell that the Earth when the Earth stood still.
Yeah.
Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But we have created a story around these visitors, if you want to call it, and it's now become so ingrained in our pop culture that when you say there's something in the sky that I saw, they'll go, okay, whatever they might. It is not believed because I think it is so in our culture not to, because
people can't believe it. People can't believe that we're not the only ones. They can't believe that, like, unless they see somebody, like it just seems so out of like, again, like you said, like a movie. And I think like things that I've seen from people that I respected going, you know, when you say this guy was an ex-intelligence officer, or he still is. He is. He's an intelligence officer who
That's what got my dad. He went, oh, okay.
he puts his reputation on the line to do this, and then he goes under oath, and then you get people again who I respect going, well, there's been tons of people under oath who have lied. You say, yeah, but those people under oath that you made, that this particular person put out there that lied, was summoned to be there. Like basically, you have to be there to testify. You have to be there, and then they lied because they were scared.
They're volunteering.
This guy wants to come out and say he's not just going, I don't know, guys.
Yeah,
he's a whistleblower.
Yes.
There's a complete difference with that. It's like, why? I just feel like, you know, putting my entire reputation on the line,
especially with the stigma that I just mentioned. Why are you going to walk out there and put your entire career,
because you're the guy, that's who he is now.
Yeah.
That's who he is now. And
to somebody that looks at you and puts on an alien mask and goes, okay, all right. Which is it, Reese's Pieces or M&M's? And you're like, you know, no, I'm telling you the truth. That's what I feel is missing in the discourse, because I've been going to the algorithm now knows I like UFO Twitter. So Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it. Twitter. I call it Twitter. Twitter is showing me. I know. Damn it! I'm making a stand against that man. It's Twitter. The algorithm now is showing me everything, and I see a lot of just ridicule and you know, you didn't show this, but whataboutism, you know, whatever it may be, without just kind of like looking into it more.
That's the thing that gets me. It's like, I don't mind when if somebody's doing the research on it and watches all this stuff and figures all this stuff out and says, okay, I think that this thing could be debunked. I think this could be debunked because of this. I've watched that.
Certainly things can be debunked. All of it can, I'm sure.
It's the fact that when they don't have all the information, they don't like. I'm like, there's certain things that you see in the comment section on Twitter, whatever it is, and they're like, well, this and this and this. I'm like, yeah, and I ask people in the comment section, I'm like, but how much of this have you watched, and do you know about the case in O'Hare? Do you know about the one in Houston, in Arizona, and in Zimbabwe, and in Brazil, and Australia? Do you know about these? And if you do, what do you think about those? And a lot of times I get no response, because it's like, oh no, I haven't watched that stuff. I just know what I know. And it's like, and that's the problem. It's that
because those shows too are packaged up in this pop culture.
Yeah,
you get it on Discovery Channel, and you get the new app, and then UFO, you know, abductions and stories under fantasy and sci-fi.
They're selling it.
You see that it's real. It's real people saying real things that believe it had happened, but it's in this pre-packaged thing that you watch, and then it's suggesting Close Encounters of the Third Kind after you're done watching.
Okay, before we move on, because I want to get into a few other stories here, I do want to tell you guys about our two of our sponsors. We have both Athletic Greens and Nutrafol. I'm going to tell you about both of them right now. All right, everybody, our next partner is AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. So you guys know about AG1. If you're brand new to this show, you're going to hear about them because I talk about them on every single show. Why? Because I incorporate them into my life. I'm a coffee drinker. I'm not going to lie to you. I drink coffee. But what this has done for me is I take AG1 every morning. I have this big, large cup. I think I got it from the zoo when I went with my kids. Doesn't matter. I put cold water in it. I take some AG1, and it gives me enough to where I don't. I actually save money on coffee now, because I used to need like 2 or 3 cups a day and 1 cup of coffee. 1 cup of coffee, but I have AG1 in the morning. That's my vitamins. That's everything that I need, because I didn't want to take all these different supplements. I wanted just a single solution that supports my entire body, and it covers my nutritional bases every day. It helps with sleep quality, a better immune system, all of that. It's great. I take it in the morning right when I wake up, and it just makes me feel amazing. Since I've been drinking it, I've noticed just an overall feeling of health. I mean, I really have. It's like I have a little bit more pep in my step, guys, and I've been doing it for a bit. You guys have said it over the last year. You have so much more fun doing the show. Yeah, because I also feel good when I'm waking up in the morning, getting ready. So if you want to take ownership of your health, you try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/big thing. drinkag1.com/ big thing. Check it out. I am so excited that this show is now sponsored by Nutrafol. Do you guys know that 80% of men are going to experience a hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, but it doesn't have to be fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. It's the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their health wellness quiz. You identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better health, getting through whole body wellness. It works. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months of taking Nutrafol. So take that first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code BIGTHING. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommended Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. Nutrafol.com/men and enter that code BIGTHING. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code BIGTHING. All right, once again, guys, please check out AG1, check out Nutrafol. When you are supporting this show, obviously by watching it, by commenting, by liking, all that stuff, it helps so much. I can't thank you enough for that. But if you're able to, you have the means to, try one of our sponsors, especially if you need them and you can use them. I've seen a lot of people who are trying a lot of our sponsors, and we're continuously getting new sponsors and re-ups because of it. And that's what helps the show. And if you're able to do that, and people, and they go, oh, wait a minute. That person watched, they clicked that link and they got it. That helps the show out tremendously. It allows us to do more and more of these type shows. Okay, I want to get into this topic because this one I saw, as I mentioned on the top in the intro, there's some, as I am kind of newer to this kind of, well, community, whatever, too, and people now, what I've felt, I guess, I don't know if I want to say, I guess I say I felt humbled by it, right? And I think Attack Peter said it on the show last week. We're not approaching this as reporters that have been in this thing for so long and just like matter of fact, these things are here and this and that. We're just trying to bring awareness to what's going on. It says it from like essentially how we started the Schmoes brand,
I was thinking the same thing. We're just normal people looking at from the outside going, can we talk about this? Because it seems big.
We're just curious. And the idea that even if it was MSNBC, CNN, who even the BBC, who had David Grusch on, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
If they, instead of burying David Grusch the last 5 minutes of the show, or CNN not even talking about it, and talking about the same freaking stories every night at exhaustion level,
nothing but the talk of the indictment.
Understood, but
sure.
But just in segments as opposed to just hour-longs. And it's like, okay, and by the way, we're going to spend 10 minutes on the updates on what's going on because the hearing, this is going to happen, this might happen, this might happen. Like, that stuff, that's why we cover it here, because it's like, we don't really get into the politics side of it. It's not really what we want to do here. It's not, because I don't think this is a world issue, in my opinion. It's not, it's not a political thing, and it is a bipartisan thing. And I think that it should be covered that way. And I also think it should be talked about. And like I said, I want to make that very clear. I encourage skepticism. I think that is healthy. I think it's healthy to ask those questions. I think that when you say, well, wait a minute, but I think you need to be a skeptic with research and not just say, well, I don't believe this because it's too far right. I'm out. No. But it's like, but why? Have you really looked at it? And can you go into it and can you understand like what each little thing happened, and do you know all the cases and the facts and the details? And I think it's fair, as we've mentioned, to say, I don't know, I'm not on board yet. I watched the hearings, and every single time they ask Grusch a question, he can't talk about it. He's got to go into a skiff, and it's like, maybe that's the way it's done, but you're not going to convince me because I got to see it. I get that. I really do get it.
That's the stuff I get.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing the politics. I refuse to make it political. Mm-hmm. It's just, it doesn't mean, I just don't see it. I'm going down the rabbit holes of just talking to people like, what's going on?
Right.
And to a lesser degree, maybe people who've seen stuff, because that was an exhilarating moment that I will always remember because it was weird.
Yeah.
Just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But that aside, I can't help but look in at those hearings and see Republicans and Democrats in the same room, and that's what I want to see. That's essentially it.
Because it's
just working together. It's part of the job that they need to be on. It was nice to see them doing something other than screaming and yelling at each other about this or that.
They were all aligned like this.
Yeah.
Normally it's like this.
And right? I know that you can then find the pockets of political and let your voice be known. I know the pockets are out there that you could say, well, it's completely right or it's on the left. You know, you can find your people, as it were. I'm just finding a lot of conversation right now, and I want to enhance that.
Yeah, agreed. And so this is as I was mentioning before. So one of the things that I found about all 5 parts of that series. It's called Investigating UFOs, Investigating the Unknown, which is really where my journey began on this whole thing. I watched all 5 of those. I just real quick, boom, 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 just ate them all up. And then I wound up watching James Fox's 2 documentaries. I watched a bunch of interviews. I watched all this stuff. And there's tons of information that I know that's still out there and other cases that are out there that people tell me about. And this is an article, Reilly, that came out in April of this year.
Okay.
And again, I don't. You guys tell me what you think and what you don't think. This is an ex-CIA officer on UFOs and aliens who says they are showing up in 2027. Okay?
Yeah.
This is from 8 months ago. This one, ex-CIA officer on UFOs and aliens say they're showing up in 2027. This was updated in April. So this is the article. This one comes from How and Wise. In the 1940s, the CIA first became involved in UFOs. Since then, a number of former U.S. military personnel and CIA officers have advanced ufology by making stunning remarks. Former CIA and U.S. military officials, including R. James Woolsey, John Brennan, Jim Semovin, Louis Elizondo, and others have described how the existence of reality all around us that we are unable to perceive could be a major aspect of the UFO phenomenon. Since 2021, John Ramirez, who spent 25 years in the CIA, has been proving truthful insights into the UAPs that he learned in his career. He is a highly intelligent individual who has an immense amount of knowledge and experience regarding the U.S. intelligence apparatus and the UAP subject. He has made an impressive social media presence after he revealed many UAP-related mysteries that had never been discussed in public by any government official. CIA retired John Ramirez, who specialized in ballistic missile defense systems, worked from the CIA from 1984 to 2009, holding positions in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Directorate of Science and Technology, and the Directorate of Intelligence. He attained GS 15 grade, which indicates that he worked for the agency in a relatively senior capacity. His appearance on the highly acclaimed Witness Citizen podcast on October 17th, 2021 created a huge burst in the UFO community. Later, Ramirez made an appearance on Project Unity, where he delivered a series of slides to assist researchers in navigating the FOA process. Ramirez was particularly helpful in identifying the appropriate agencies to contact when requesting particular types of information. So, the slides, which are available online, also include historical information about UFOs and current statements made by prominent former U.S. intelligence officials, including John Ratcliffe, a former Director of National Intelligence. He stated a schematic on how to investigate a UFO in the CIA style. Establish a group to investigate and evaluate sightings, determine the objectives of your investigation, consult with experts, create a reporting system to organize incoming cases, eliminate false positives, develop a methodology to identify common aircraft and other aerial phenomenon often mistaken for UFOs, examine witness documentation, conduct controlled experiments, gather and test physical and forensics evidence, and discourage false reporting. He also made assumptions regarding the current UFO disclosure procedure, as it appears that his opinions may have been influenced by members of the intelligence community. All right, so here's a little excerpt, and this is from John Ramirez talking on this podcast about this, about what could happen. Right, listen to this.
Okay.
Decades, and this show up, there will be mass panic. But if you understand that these are real, and we have 5 years from 2022, or maybe now 4 years, if they come in 2027, for the U.S. government to prepare the people about what is up there. And in many ways, I think the word got out within the government that they're showing up. in 2027, and we better be prepared. And if not, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do. And so I think that dialogue has happened with previous decades, and this show up, there will be mass panic.
Fascinating, right?
All right, so that is like that's one of those ones where you're like, you gotta do the research on who the guy is, like,
Yeah.
And as I mentioned in that article, very, like, I just don't understand, like, one day why you wake up if you have this like storybook career as like a really decorated CIA.
Yeah.
I mean, the CIA as a CIA agent, and you're like, I'm gonna tell people aliens are coming in 2027. Why? Why not? It's like it's just I don't know. It's like, and like when they do, it's like, but the first question you're gonna ask, like anybody, is he out of his mind? And then the answer is, well, not medically.
It reminds me of the beginning of Ghostbusters 2. Is like, I have it on good authority the world will end on February 14th, 1989. Valentine's Day. Bummer.
Yeah,
It's like, where are they coming from? Well, this guy, he has legitimate credits to his name. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I mean, this is a guy.
That stuff goes more into me like, all right.
Right. I'm the. I feel.
All right. I tune out.
I feel the same, because this is like just the same way.
I brought up Ghostbusters 2 for a reason.
Y2K.
Yeah.
They're coming.
Loch Ness Monster.
And look, even the aliens. Plans change.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because
but if you're the aliens, you're like, yeah, we were gonna come in 2027, but then
it's like Nostradamus. When it's
we
like,
figured we're gonna give you guys a couple more seasons of Floribama Shores. It's like, but you're good. We changed our mind, so it's like, I don't know. When somebody makes a definitive statement, they're coming in 2027, but I think that the point is, if you look into it a little bit more and you explore it,
I'm all for believing it.
Yeah, look, but look, I don't know about 2027. What I'm saying is this: the point that he made, that I went, well, wait a minute. If there's reports that, look, eventually these things are going to show themselves, whether it's 2027, 2037, there is concrete evidence that we have. We can't hide it anymore.
No,
like we just
that's
like
what
James
the whole
Fox
hearing
was.
was.
Genie in a bottle. But so his point of, maybe there's a reason why these things are heating up now. Maybe there's a reason why it's in the consciousness again. Just saying.
Well, I think more people have cell phones. I think there's more access to internet videos. I think you get fooled a lot in these internet videos as well.
Yeah.
That people can add their little things.
Better.
Special effects are getting better, so people could look at that and say, well, I believe. You get one person like that, and then you get the other person and go, that's fake. And then every single picture that comes to them, fake. So two sides of the same coin. I think social media does that. I think the advancement and technology is doing that. But again, when there's smoke, there's fire, because now that all these people are saying things, there's more sightings because of this social media stuff. So it's more in our head, and more people are coming out. When the one thing I will say about when he said, to 2027, they're going to be here. He's like, yeah, there's more sightings now.
Right.
And yeah.
Well,
again, I just want to know what's behind the doors.
100%. This is why I love James Fox. I've become a massive fan of his, because he was that same podcast that he was on. He goes, look, because he was on with a bunch of skeptics, and he's like, look, I'm not telling you. He's like, I think that a lot of these things are reported. He's like, I forget what the actual number is, but he's like, a lot of these things reported are proven to be BS.
Yeah, probably a weather balloon.
But what about the 4% that aren't?
I know.
What about the 4% or whatever the percentage was that you can't explain? What is it?
Yeah.
Like, they can't explain it. They do it. They try everything that they can, that they look, and it's like, as they said in that report, there's tons of times where there's a logical explanation that even when, what was this, Heinrich? When
the German guy.
Yeah, from who ran Blue Book.
Mm-hmm.
And he said most of the times I went around, I said, I can tell you what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's quite a handful of times I said, I don't know what that is. And that's why this is happening. It's I don't know, like the smartest people in the world that are going, the smartest people that they could put on these things are going, oh.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
Just look at the TikTok video. I really do.
Tic-tac.
Did I say TikTok?
Yeah,
yep, I sure did.
Yeah.
Tic-tac video.
Yeah.
I can't explain that. I really can't.
I know.
And nobody's come out and debunked it yet. I would say I should say nobody's debunked it, because it's legit government sanctioned video, right?
Right.
But then I take that. That was really my true awakening, because I'm like, okay, if they're releasing that, the New York Times article, and Grusch is coming out, and all these people are coming out, it makes me. I go right back to that night when I saw that thing.
Yeah,
and it just broke all the rules.
And you saw it in the spot. It was Michigan, right? That's
Michigan,
in the woods.
woods.
One of the highest spots in the States, anyway.
Yeah, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing moved out of nowhere.
The woods. They love the woods.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. You asked me in the beginning if the aliens had hair. Well, one of the reasons that they don't is because they use Manscaped. They've been shaving their balls for a long time, thousands of years, and you should be shaving your balls just like the aliens, and I'll tell you why right now. Now we're talking about a sponsor for your bouncing bundle of joy. Not talking about a baby. We're talking about your baby makers. That's right. Today's show is brought to you by Manscaped. But just like babies, you delicate little guys have sensitive skin and deserve products that they're not only skin safe, but made with safe ingredients. And that's where Manscaped Platinum's package comes in. From razors to shower care, this package goes above the gold standard for your body hair. So treat your beautiful boys to the world's finest toys. Go to manscaped.com. Use our code BIGTHING for 20% off plus free shipping. I love Manscaped. I love it. I've been using Manscaped forever. And since I got Manscaped, I'm not going to lie. I used to go to the supermarket and just pick out razors and go, good luck. See, it looked like a battlefield. It stings. Anyway, point is, since Manscaped, I don't have that problem anymore. And it's like, I feel like Jack Nicholson, like, where do they get those wonderful toys? It's the stuff they keep coming up with. I use Manscaped all of the damn time. The Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0, it's the one-stop shop for the man who deserves it all. And they designed this package to allow you to fully align your entire hygiene routine with elite products. They got it all. It's the best. And don't forget to apply their aluminum-free ultra-premium deodorant for that cologne-quality scent on the go. The Platinum Package 4.0 covers all bases from head to toe and hair to ball fro. See? 20% off and free shipping, but use that code BIGTHING at manscaped.com. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, but use that code BIGTHING. Use the Platinum Package because the gold standard is no longer good enough. All right, thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this episode of the show and for helping us out. Once again, if you'd never used Manscaped before, you've never tried it before, and you're buying those razors at the freaking grocery store, the supermarket, show a little bit of class. Just an ounce. Stop that. Stop that. You're going to get cuts all over your sacks. Get Manscaped. All right, let's get serious. Let's talk about the Vatican. Good transition. All right. So you know there's pressure now, Reilly, on the Vatican to reveal archives after the UFO government claims, and this is from yesterday, or when the time this comes out.
I heard
August 2nd.
about this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is also pressure is growing, and this comes from Newsweek. Pressure is growing on the Vatican to shed light on whether it was aware of a UFO being retrieved from Italy in the 1930s amid a slew of claims about the U.S. government's knowledge and handling of contact with alien life. It follows claims made by David Grusch, who's a U.S. Air Force veteran who previously worked at the National Reconnaissance Office on UFOs in an interview in June. That unidentified aerial phenomenon was recovered from Magneta, a town near Milan, in 1933 before becoming a U.S. possession with the help of the Papal State. The whistleblower was among 3 people to recently testify to the House Oversight Committee on the allegations. He repeated his earlier claim that the federal government had been aware of non-human activity since the 1930s. The Department of Defense and NASA have publicly stressed there is no evidence of alien life or a government program to reverse engineer alien materials. The alien probe was launched after Grusch, who resigned from his post in April, told News Nation that the government had retrieved several non-human original technical vehicles, some that had dead pilots. In the same interview, he claimed that under the fascist dictator Benito Mussolini, the Italian government had recovered a UFO and moved it to a secure airbase for the remainder of his regime, which ended with the Allied occupation of Italy. Grusch alleged that then Pope Pius XII had back-channeled knowledge of the UFO to the U.S., which ended up scooping it from them. When asked explicitly whether he was saying the Catholic Church knew about the existence of alien life, Grusch responded, certainly. News Nation reported on Tuesday that it had been attempted to get to the Vatican publicly comment on the matter for the week, but it had yet to receive a response. Newsweek approached the Vatican via email for comment on Wednesday. So Russ Colhart, another guy I'm trying to get on the show, one of the journalists who interviewed Grusch prior to the congressional hearing, told the news network that other unnamed sources had confirmed the story to him and suggested that the Vatican's silence may be a sign of the claim's truth. Right, there's a lot in there. I was going to say,
somebody get Indiana Jones on the line.
For real. But
let's go spelunking in the caverns of the
he's already found
Vatican.
He's already found aliens in that shitbox.
Otherworldly beings.
That's right,
my
right.
friend.
True. So, but this is what, as Colhart says, there is something interesting.
Well, that also talks about like that this is outside of the USA too.
Well, yes, that for sure.
There's other.
They would be the first from the 30s. That's what Grusch is saying. That's how they first kind of figured it out. But it's like if that was the case, if Pius was like, "Hey, we got this thing, get it out of here," right?
Mm-hmm.
And that the Vatican's known about it that long. There's so much in there. There's so much, and one of the main things is that, hey, can we get a comment? And it's not immediately, this is ridiculous. No.
Yeah.
It's like, if that comes out now, if they're like, no, this is all false, that this never happened, why didn't you do that when they first called you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part one. Part two is if they did know, as we said, if the existence of aliens eventually comes out,
mm-hmm.
it's going to change people's thoughts on religion.
And
and that's one of the reasons they're like,
I thought I saw something somewhere, so it's really bad of me, but it comes in the conversation.
Should be a website,
somethingsomewhere.com. You can get all your news there. But it was made by a priest, and it was on aliens, and I'm sure I found it on UFO Twitter. But the quote, and I'm paraphrasing, was, "Yeah, if that happens, then we'll see that God has." More plans than we were aware of.
Right.
Kind of put it in a very, I found it very, very nice way. Respectful, and that, that's essentially saying, yeah, that's God too.
Right. Which is also
it's
fair.
It's like, the universe is vast.
Right.
And I like that. And I think the magic of the Vatican, or the pomp and circumstance behind the Vatican being the Vatican, where the Pope is, where the tradition is, where the lines wait to see the beautiful Michelangelo and all these different things, right? The Vatican being, so incredibly big, to be linked to aliens immediately puts, again, in me this, nobody's believing this shit. This is a freaking movie. Where's Robert Langdon, played by Tom Hanks, that's going to come in here, and the post-credits are going to show that Indiana Jones was already on this. It's like, that's where that story gets me. I go, oh, man, okay. We got the Vatican. But when you break it down, it makes sense that these governments or Vatican would have maybe something.
But it's still, if you're one of these news outlets, again, I walk into if I'm a news anchor, I go, listen to this.
Yeah.
This guy, this whistleblower, says that Mussolini had this thing, right? And he said that the Vatican knew about it, and he said that Pope Pius knew about it.
You're answering your question, I think, because, that sounds crazy.
And it's like, wait a minute. So this is the story, and then guess what happened, guys? We called the Vatican to get a comment, and they didn't comment. We got to talk about this on, give it to Anderson. Nothing.
No, because there's a camera right now on Trump's car driving to an airport.
Right.
That's what they're showing.
But I mean, then have someone who's looking to move up the ladder cover for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know. You're preaching to the choir. I mean, I would like to.
It's insane.
It's just, again, and I think, Fox is saying it, people are saying it, I'll always go to Leslie Kean and her brilliant idea about by this that I subscribe to, that something needs to happen that's going to unite us all, that's going to bring it, going to be, I keep going to that point, so it's kind of, I'm wasting my breath here, but that stuff, I don't think they could even get through the newsroom, because it's like, what is going to sell?
But this would sell.
I know, I love it.
But
then people are thinking aliens. That guy.
Yeah, but whatever. But the point is this. This is, again, I'm not telling you that they have to report it in the fact, like, guess what happened?
No,
this thing crashed, and this body, it's like, it has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that this guy, who was a whistleblower, who had this job, made an insane, to a lot of people, claim that they knew about it in the 30s, and then when we reached out for comment, nothing. Like, that's a story right there, even if it's not real. Even if they're like, okay, well, why? Because then my next follow-up question would be like, well, then why didn't you answer us right away? And they're like,
that's where I went too.
We called the Vatican and didn't have a comment. So the question is, Chuck, blah, blah, blah. If this isn't real, then why aren't they responding? Well, I'll tell you the reason why it's not real and these things aren't happening. They have a discussion about it, and then you can leave the conversation going, well, yeah, it's clearly just a bunch of BS. Fine, but talk about it.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just like, well, Billy Bob woke up in the morning and he said, I saw, I was reading something in some comic book, and I think the Italians had an alien, and that's what. I had a whole bunch of moonshine, and I'm gonna say, hey, the aliens, call them up, call the Pope. It's the Pope's fault. Then you go and get lost. But this is crazy. This is a crazy story.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is. So anyway, I'm very curious to hear.
It's fun to consider. Yeah.
It is. And we got a couple more stories here because I want to cover. I'm going to end with again, as I mentioned, as I said, that Grusch was buried to the end of the show for BBC.
Yeah.
We're not going to bury him at the end of our show. We're going to cover it in depth because I do want to talk about. All right, so this story was pretty big, and this came out right afterwards, right? And this is from the Associated Press. Of course, this is the one that they lead with. And it says that basically the UFO congressional hearing was insulting to U.S. employees, a top Pentagon official says.
I'm sure.
Now, a top...
That's a good headline.
Of course, that's the one they lead with.
Yeah.
A top Pentagon official has attacked this week's widely watched congressional hearing on UFOs, calling the claims insulting to employees who are investigating sightings and accusing a key witness of not cooperating with the official U.S. government investigation. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick's letter, published on his personal LinkedIn page, that makes sense.
Okay.
And circulated Friday across social media, criticizes much of the testimony from a retired Air Force intelligence officer that energized believers in extraterrestrial life and produced headlines around the world. David Grusch testified Wednesday that the U.S. had concealed what he called a multi-decade program to collect and reverse engineer UAPs, or identified aerial phenomenon, the official government term for UFOs. A career intelligence officer, Kirkpatrick was named a year ago to lead the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, which was intended to centralize investigations into UAPs. The Pentagon and U.S. intelligence agencies have been pushed by Congress in recent years to better investigate reports of devices flying at unusual speeds or trajectories as a national security concern. Kirkpatrick wrote the letter Thursday, and Defense Department confirmed Friday that he posted it in a personal capacity. Kirkpatrick declined to comment on the letter. He writes in part, "I cannot let yesterday's hearing pass without sharing how insulting it was to the officers of the Department of Defense and intelligence community who chose to join AARO, many with not unreasonable anxieties about the career risk this would entail. They are truth seekers, as am I," Kirkpatrick says, "but you certainly would not get that impression from yesterday's hearing." In a separate statement, Pentagon spokesperson Sue Go denied other allegations made by Grusch before a House Oversight Committee. The Pentagon has no information that any individual has been harmed or killed as a result of providing information about UFO objects, Go said, nor has the Pentagon discovered any verifiable information to sustainable claims that any programs regarding the possession of reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. Kirkpatrick wrote, AARO has yet to find any credible evidence to support the allegations of any reverse engineering program for non-human technology. He had briefed the reporters in December that the Pentagon was investigating several hundreds of news reports following a push to have pilots and others come forward with any sightings. Kirkpatrick wrote in his letter that allegations of retaliation to include physical assault and hints of murder are extraordinarily serious, which is why law enforcement is a critical member of the team, specifically to address and take swift action should anyone come forward with claims. Yet, contrary to assertions made in the hearing, the central source of those allegations has refused to speak with AARO. Kirkpatrick said he did not say Grusch, who alleged he faced retaliation, and declined to answer when our congressman asked him if anyone had been murdered to hide information about UFOs. So, okay, so that's part one there, Reilly. So, you get Kirkpatrick saying this, and then so I've got on the BBC, they had Grusch on, and we'll play a little bit, play more of his actual interview, but I want to play the end first.
Sure. I was going to say, it sounds like someone's feathers were ruffled.
Yeah, it seems like it. Because he's the one that's the fingers are pointed like, why is this guy talking so much? Okay, so this is the interviewer on BBC asking Grusch about Kirkpatrick's comments.
Yeah.
David, can I go back to you with some of the responses that have been aired to what you said? The head of the Pentagon's office in this area, Sean Kirkpatrick, issued a statement last week, you'll be aware of it, calling your testimony insulting and saying that you were never a representative to his unit.
Dr. Kirkpatrick oversaw our activities and what we were doing and the money we were spending. I never said I was a part of the core team, so I believe it was just lost in translation or misconstrued.
Okay. So, I mean, I think it was more like you said. I think Kirkpatrick was like, it's all coming down on him.
Yeah.
He's probably,
He's like, stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
That's what I got from it. And that's why I think ultimately Grusch is not going to say certain things and can't say certain things.
Say it in the skiff.
Say it in the skiff. I think, and a lot of those representatives want to go in the skiff and hear more. And that's the first step, I think, to getting the beliefs in them to maybe come out as being new and important and put a rush in this to get more evidence to come out. So more people might believe if AOC and Gates, to use the examples we keep using because they seem to be on the far side of their respective parties, right? If they're together on this and they're showing the far sides of the respective parties that they're working together on something bigger than just politics and the two names that are in the parties that they just keep throwing at each other. And they say, this is something to take serious. Maybe more people will believe. I'd like to believe that.
I agree. And I think that, by the way, so if you want to check out, I actually pinned to the Big Thing podcast Twitter. The first tweet is actually the full interview with David Grusch, that from the BBC. Because he talked about some other things. He talked about that question that we talked about with the, if other governments have found them and all that. So that's on the top of that page if you want to check that out. But the last thing we'll cover here before you get out of here, Reilly, is this is a crazy another one of those stories that I was like, whoa, this is one of those ones where it's similar to what we just talked about with they're coming here in 2027.
Sure.
So this is from the Jerusalem Post. UFOs once, and this came out a couple days, August 1st. UFOs once took control of Russian ICBMs and nearly caused World War III. And this was a testimony. Did aliens nearly cause the Earth to be consumed by World War III after antagonizing Russian missiles based in Ukraine?
Oh, boy.
Did Russian fighter pilots die fighting UFOs? So here's the report. Russian fighter jets once fired at a possible extraterrestrial life form after a pair of UFOs nearly caused World War III to break out, according to sworn testimony shared to Congress and obtained by Fox News.
Okay.
The testimony was given by George Knapp, an award-winning Las Vegas-based journalist who repeatedly reported on UFOs known as UAPs and the alleged conspiracies surrounding them. According to Knapp, there was a time when Russian military actually deployed fighter jets to fire on UFOs following an incident that nearly pushed the world into a globe-spanning nuclear war. How did UFOs clash with Russian pilots? That's the question. In the testimony, Knapp said that the Russians had carried out what might have been the largest UFO investigation in history, spanning a decade and the entire breadth of the Russian military echelon. He said he had spoken with a Russian military official, Colonel Boris Sokolov, who said that there had been no less than 45 different incidents where Russian fighter jets had clashed with UFOs, with Russian jets crashing and 3 of those incidents resulting in the deaths of 2 pilots in crashes with UFOs. One incident that really raised alarm bells, though, was at a Russian ICBM base in Ukraine. According to Sokolov, the UFOs somehow took control of the launch system. So, Knapp described it as the following. UFOs appeared over the base, performed astonishing maneuvers in front of stunned eyewitnesses, and then somehow took control of the launch system. The missiles were aimed at the U.S. and were suddenly fired up. Launch control codes were somehow entered, and the base was unable to stop what could have initiated World War III. Then, just as suddenly, the UFOs disappeared and the launch control system shut down. After these incidents, the Russian Defense Ministry supposedly issued a hands-off order for UFOs, which they said should be left alone since they have many incredible capacities for retaliation. All this is alarming enough, but it also flies in the face of claims the U.S. had made about UFOs since the 1960s. Since its 1969, the position of our military has been that UFOs pose no threat to national security and not worthy of further study. This dismissive attitude is directly at odds with what was revealed in the documents, says Knapp. Anyway, that's a crazy story.
That one's like, give me a tub of popcorn and
it seems like the opening of a
who's
film.
yeah who's in this one?
Yeah,
and I mean again,
I want to see that scene.
Yeah,
it's like you could see it. Like it's like they get they're screaming in Russian as they're flying after him, and then it's just like they're like, okay, you want to fire on us? Look at what we can do. Are you sure you want to fire on us? Because how about this? Boop, boop. It's aimed at the States. We can't do it, and then they're like, see what we can do. Bye.
Yeah,
and they leave. You're like, ah.
It sounds
a crazy opening.
That's why it's so funny. We're talking about these things.
It's written by AI, by the way.
Yeah. Oh God, I know. I'm sure it sounds it. But we're talking about these things, and we're talking about like what Grusch says in the hearings, and credible, and then Russian things taken over by UFO.
But Knapp is pretty credible, though.
I know, and that's what's that's a big leap for me.
I understand that.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Again, I am not going to not believe it because we are on the track of
it's just
that.
It's harder to get
happen.
down, but it's harder to get down that rabbit hole.
It is harder to get down
because
that
it's just
rabbit
like, okay, while you were sleeping one night, you almost got blown up because the aliens got pissed off at the Russians for shooting at them, and then the Russians go, "Oh, we're just kidding. We won't do that anymore."
Yeah,
and it's like so. Yes, in when you hear it, you're like, I don't know, but then you're like that portion of your brain goes, I don't know.
I've always, again, and there is something in me I've always wanted to believe. There's the saying that we've brought up many times, that contact quote, it's a waste of space, the quote that some people have been using, I've seen online and in social media. It's like, we're so egotistical to think we're the only ones.
Right.
And it's like, I've always wanted to believe. I love my sci-fi movies and whatnot. Now this is all very credible stuff. And I would like to believe the Russian that could have happened, but we got to get to that.
Well, but here's
reveal and
here's the
more
only
evidence.
Here's the only reason that I feel the way you do with this one, where it's like that one is pretty out there. But the only reason I go, is because of watching the phenomenon, watching some of the reports on these other things where our new people have said these things floated over, shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
they shut it down, and then they zipped off. They didn't.
That's where things
they didn't say that there was any nukes fired. They just said they were scanning stuff and everything too, and then they said they took off. So there is that portion of me that goes, if it's them going, hey, dum-dums, you can't we're way more evolved than you are. Stop this. Stop this. There's that part of me that goes, I don't know. Like, I'm just at a point right now because of all this. I mean, this is, again, what Heinrich said, and people are going to correct me on his name, I'm sure. But what he said was, it's one thing when you just have random people out there but it's when these well-respected military people are out there giving these testimonies time and time again that you go, And this is all, this is stuff from George. This is from Knapp, who's, again, this is not a cuckoo.
I'm with you.
I don't know. It's all
good stuff to keep looking into and talking about with an open mind. That's what I love.
And that's exactly what we'll be doing on this show. So for Tuesdays for now, we're going to be doing that until, there's a possibility what happens with this show. And I've thought about this, and I don't know if Reilly has either. There's a possibility, like, I looked and I said, okay, let me see if there's stuff to talk about this week, and there was tons of it.
Oh yeah,
and there could have been so much more to talk about. But I mean, linked to what's going on, there's always stuff like the theories of whatnot, and this was reported here. But when it comes to, like, as it pertains to, are we going to find out the information? That's when I think this show is going to tell if it's going to stay on for a weekly show or not. Right? It's like more things are coming out, more things need to be covered, more things have to be. If it's just us going over old cases, I don't know how long that's going to go. But if it's pertaining to the stuff that we talked about today, and it's more stuff with Grusch, and there's more, I mean, if you look at some of the stuff that they're talking about, like Cohort is talking about, like there's going to be people coming out of the woodwork to start testifying soon. That's the stuff we want to talk about, because what we really want to get to the bottom of is what the hell is it? And I hope in my lifetime we get to find out that answer. But we present this show to you guys. As always, I want to thank Mark Reilly for being here. Mark, where can the kids find you?
Thank you very much. Love being here. Find me social media at Reilly Around. I guess that's on Twitter and Threads.
So for me, same thing, at Kristian Harloff. All my stuff is in the description. If you are able to get any one of our wonderful sponsors today, please do it. It helps the show. It helps support the show. It helps the show to keep going. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify. If you can't do the YouTubes and you want to listen to us in the car, then that's how you should do it, man. Subscribe to us if you haven't done that already. Hit that button, man. Trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, and we hope that you can help us do it. So for Mark Reilly, I'm me. You're you. See you next time.